Greetings, greetings, sending you all some warm, positive vibrations. This is Body-Culinary. Hold on, let me get my water. So I'm coming on. So I've been just sharing a couple of my favorite go-to Quickie Style. So, shout out to all of you folks with really fine Afro textured hair. So all that this style is two very loose braids. I tucked it under, so it's similar to, this is again one of my favorite hairstyles because I like to access. I like to exercise a lot. So all I did was to make two very loose braids. And actually I can also see my hair, I'm starting to get a little bit of a length because as I watch, I can get one more little level of this braid. So maybe now I got 4 of them now. Yay. So I can just tuck it under with a couple of hairpins in the back. That's it. No muss, no fuss. I'm really into the minimalism. And today I'm not a big makeup wearer. I do encourage, well, for me, I like no makeup, but there's some things I'm playing with. And I think there's a distinction, and you find whatever that is for you. There's a distinction between covering up, for me, in my reality, and enhancing. So one of the things I've always liked to play with is my eyelashes. Usually, I told you I share one of my little gems, my secrets with y'all. I would use castor oil or shea butter on my eyelashes and my eyebrows. So that I really like. I don't care for greetings. I don't like foundation on my skin because I feel like I can't breathe. I usually don't even like anything shiny on my lips because I like to bite into apples and organic fruit, and I don't want that on my fruit, and I don't want to eat toxic lipstick. So usually I will prefer cocoa butter or shea butter, but usually I like nothing on my lips so I can feel them breathe. But every now and again, when you want to get a little jazzy, snazzy, feel a little jazzied up, this is my version, usually aloe gel. Tell you, I'm giving you my secrets. So aloe gel here, and I've got loads of aloe plants, either cocoa butter or shea butter or castor oil, whatever you have on your eyelashes. And those same things can go on your lips. If you're eating lots of living foods and you're consuming things that are very hydrating, you may find, like I do, you don't need anything on your lips. So this is just me playing around. So I don't have to, I can feel jazzed. This is me jazzed up. This would even me be going out. Oh my gosh, sometimes I really dip into my Ebonics. I celebrate Ebonics over here. I can get very corporate, but I also celebrate Ebonics. So if I'm getting dressed to go out, I know that we feel sometimes obligated to put a lot of makeup on, but this is about it for me. This is what I like. I feel relaxed. I feel comfortable in my skin. And one thing that I do like, that I like to play around with, that I'm just discovering, is a little bit of a teeny, like a drop of glitter. So I see all the contouring and all of that, and I do have my folks that encourage me, with makeup and all that and expression. And again, I get it. This would be, I think, the max for me. Maybe at some point, again, I'll do something professional, whatever. But I don't know. I just can't tell you how much I love my own skin. And the more I eat healthy, the more I love it. And it's been many years on this journey. You can look and see, I have shared on this channel, I've shared a picture so you can see what my skin looks like. I'm amazed every time somebody compliments my skin. But I did play around with a teeny drop of glitter. That would be my nod to contouring, because I can't, when I look at the amount of paint, it just doesn't appeal to me. I can't. Now, the ritual of beautification, some people say goddess Tingz, but playing around with earring, I can't talk today. Earrings and expression, or even my hair, I really enjoy those things. I enjoy those things about femininity. I love flowers. Somebody was joking about how much I love flowers around my home. I love flowers and plants and pink and all those things. I love those things. I love being a natural born woman. Hey, shout out with, and I love my natural body parts, right? Everybody's going to have to find their own path. I'm just sharing mine. So I think that's the extent of it that I'm playing with. But also, I like to get sweaty. I like to roll on the floor. I like to have my hands in the dirt in the garden. So I really like to pick things that complement the hair that I have grown out of my head, because I don't want to do gel. I just don't want to I don't want to wear tons of makeup that give me a brown face print. I want to be able to sweat. So this is about what you're gonna get. Unless I'm doing a photo shoot, and even then, I don't know. I fall continually more in love with myself, and it all started the first time I cut the last chemical perm out of my head, which is almost maybe over 30 years ago, right? And that was a Jerry curl. And I was trying to front with it first. So, I had the Jerry Curl Juice of Soul Glow, and then I was using it like a curly fro, but it wasn't really a curly fro going on. I was telling myself it was a curly fro, but it was really greasy. Greasy. You're so beautiful. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, I really love myself. Yeah, I like myself. I don't know. I feel like part of it is energetic. Now, I will say this, for me, in my world, health is my number one beauty product, is health. The fact, go look at the community page, click on the community page. You can see what my skin was looking like. And I'm very well aware that I'm going to mature, and the texture of my skin is going to change, of my breasts, it's going to change. My desire is to preserve and to focus more on health as a beauty product and vitality. So I feel pretty good. I have this thing about really being beautiful to myself and accepting myself. I do understand that in society will treat you very ugly. Shout out to my UGC in-house. Society has a tendency to treat women, particularly Afro women, very ugly. Even some people that give you compliments can treat you very ugly. So, yeah, it is what it is. Folks can find people attractive and find you beautiful and treat you very ugly. So, I've been on the planet for a minute, so I have a good amount of wisdom, which I'm very thankful for. So I really like to celebrate myself and my health so that I don't have to wear makeup, and I can feel comfortable in my skin, and I feel comfortable with the hair that's growing out of my head. It's like, I just find it a blessing. Many of the things that we're running from, I find the more you embrace your uniqueness, like, let's be honest, coming up, we really, were chasing after the person that had the lighter colored eyes because it seemed more unique. And shout out, their eyes were attractive. And then at one point, I remember it was this brother back in the day named Donald in the neighborhood. Ooh, Donald was fine. That brother was dark chocolatey, and fine. Or I've been around a lot of professional bodybuilders and dated one. So I've been around some of the best bodies in the business, in the industry. That's fine. I've also, I would say, my eyes have changed. I find character and responsibility can make somebody very, very attractive. So a lot of it is an eye of the beholder. A lot of it is energetic. Someone treating you really well, and someone that is combined with somebody that's very healthy and responsible, that is also attractive. So I'm inviting folks, especially young women, to perhaps in your quiet moments, consider expanding your ideas of what is also attractive. So you're not just attracted to a bad boy or somebody that just has muscles, well, that's very primal, but it's also not very logical. If we're only thinking superficially, males and females, we can have a tendency to make some very poor decisions. And poor decisions can rob you of your beauty. The stress that poor decision making can cause, from if you're making poor decisions and you don't have a vetting process, and you're only looking superficially, and you're not looking at someone that values their health. If you're not looking at someone that has, I'm not talking religion or cults, but somebody that has character, that treats other people well, that treats animals and children well, that has a sense of responsibility and morals, that treats their mom well, the other people, that has a sense of fairness, that has a work ethic. Those are things that are extremely attractive, right? And I don't think that popular culture, popular music invites us to think very critically. I actually find that a lot of the hypnotic sounds and sights dumb us down. And I don't think I say it several times on this channel, I think we can really underestimate, even as intelligent as we think we are, how easily programmed we are, and things are being deposited one way through these screens into our subconscious. So I invite you, to do things, even not just for your morals and character, but do things in terms of self-care that make you feel good about yourself. So although we avoid bitters like the plague, we will avoid exercising. Those things will make you feel tremendous. They'll make you feel, I find they make you feel beautiful. They make you feel beautiful and powerful and integrity. You know, we want people to see us, but sometimes we're not seeing ourselves. So I choose to see me on purpose. So I don't want to be too long-winded because I can have a tendency to be long-winded and I got other stuff to do, and I don't want to race. But there was something that I wanted to share today. Let's see if I can find it. So some of the work that I do in the Kacoon, so those folks that may not know, I'm an author, I'm a personal trainer and fitness coach, and I'm also a nutrition specialist focusing always on healthy food, whole, fresh, living, unprocessed foods. If it's going to poison you, I don't want anything to do with it. You got to do that on your own time. I'm just it doesn't resonate with me. I like delicious, but not at the expense of killing you. So you got to do that on your own. So whole, fresh, living foods, unprocessed foods, you can put whatever labels on yourself that you like. I'm not really interested in the labels. I'm interested in the results. So that is what I do. I also work a lot with, I would say one of my areas of specialty is food addiction and self-sabotaging behaviors. I'm very much a strategist. As a woman, as a mother, you got to be a strategist anyway. That's one of our superpowers. But I'm very much a strategist. So I've been in this field of work. It's my personal calling because I come up in a familiar background of a lot of self-medication. And it's not limited to the Afro community. We see it worldwide. So I've always been fascinated by what drives human behavior, what drives us to self-sabotage, what drives us to socially acceptable suicide, right? But now the balance of that is what drives us to motivation. And by motivation, I don't mean after the fact, right? Because little Jim, many of us wait for motivation. That I'm going to tell you, that's a scam. Motivation, I have found consistently with myself and folks that achieve the results they want, and more so the people that sustain results, although they may be a much smaller part of the population. Motivation, I would even say it's a secret, and you don't have access to it until you experience it, right? It's not about mentally just recycling and thinking about it. Motivation, sustainable motivation comes after the fact. After you get into action. So many of us somehow have been conditioned to look for things to motivate us. That's not bad or not wrong. But sometimes if you can cultivate the habit of getting into action, and your movement practice is a perfect example of that. Perfect example. How many of you can think of times where you've been thinking, oh, I need to get up and work out. I know I need to get up and work out. And you've been thinking about it, looking at the ceiling. 20 minutes pass, half an hour pass, maybe 45 minutes. You could have had a whole workout, but we're ruminating, obsessing without doing anything about one of my favorite words, ruminating. And so we don't get into action. And days turn into weeks, turn into months, turn into years. And before you know it, that's your ingrained habit. So I found getting into action, even if it was a little teeny drop, even if it was 5 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, can begin to restore your integrity. And that's really key. Folks really, over the years, usually will come to me wanting recipes and workouts, and that I can do in my sleep. However, I found that's not what is going to get you there and keep you there, and that's not sustainable. The mindset, your way of processing, your way of managing stress, that is at the root. Right. And without really getting to the root of why we're doing what we're doing, you will stay on a whole stroll for the rest of your life. And people can keep selling you diet books and all kinds of stuff, yet you're not able to sustain it because it's a mentality. It's a mentality. So if you understand, here's a distinction. I love, one of my favorite things is distinctions, because distinctions, as I like to say, make all the difference. If you could perhaps understand this one thing, take this one thing away from this video today, that motivation will come. Tremendous leverage motivation will come from you getting into action. In one of the best places you can play that out. You have a playing field of your personal dojo. It's with physical activity. And you can pick one thing. You can pick one thing. It could be getting on the floor, stretching. You could be stretching while you're watching one of these videos, right? Your circle of influence, your circle of support. So getting into action breeds and multiplies motivation. So I ain't going to give you no information overload. So that was one. So I think the motivation thing is a scam because you can get stuck in just ruminating and reading memes all day and hopping from channel to channel and all over the internet looking for motivation, but you never get into action. So I invite you in your quiet moments to question quickly and efficiently, don't spend too much time there, why you're not getting into action. And even get into action while you're questioning yourself. It's nothing like immediate action towards a goal. I'll give you some of my gems. So this is something I was contemplating in the early morning. It's a running list. I don't know that I have time to go with the whole list, but I think it can be quite helpful. Now, anything that I say, y'all, thanks for coming to my little channel. Anything that I say is not the truth. This is just one woman's perspective, and likely it will change. There's so many of my perspectives that have grown and changed with life experience, right? What are your thoughts on cooked plant-based foods, whole foods? I think that if that's where you are and that's a tremendous upgrade, start from where you are. See, that is going to just tell you to go raw, blah, blah, blah. I'm not into so much of the labels. However, I would say, look at your results. So what you or I have, right? Walking around right now in the flesh is a result of what we've been doing, not what we just did for the past 3 days. Usually when I'm speaking to a client or a new client or someone I haven't seen for a while, right? They'll tell me I'm juicing, I'm walking, I'm doing all of these different things, but they may have only been doing it for 3 weeks. And that's great if you started. But more so, sometimes we're not acknowledging what we have been doing and what is there's a point that we always level right back to, right? That we get a moment of inspiration or what I'll call momentary enthusiasm, we somehow seem to level right back down to, let's say, for example, I don't have time to work out. You can fall right back into that it's a rhythm. It's a point. It's like you're normal, right? And without a paradigm shift, we usually come back there. So not right, not wrong. We keep thinking it's about the cooked. So you may be eating cooked plant-based foods, but they may be very processed. You may be eating way more than you need. You may not necessarily be doing exercises that build tone. You may not be exercising safely. You know what I'm saying? There's so many, it's the details. So just to give you a blanket answer, that can be whatever you want it to be, but I prefer whole living foods because I found they're the most beautifying, and I'm looking at my energy level. I'm looking at my elimination. So let's say I'm eating something cooked, right? And I say after 11 and a half years of whole living foods, for a couple of months recently, I decided to experiment with some sweet potatoes. I think it was sweet potatoes, and I can't remember what the other thing was. And so it tasted delicious. I am a big observer, and I don't like to have phobias around food or fitness. And so for me, what I noticed a difference in my energy level, but I would say the biggest thing that I noticed was that I was eating them for comfort. And then also the chef in me, the culinary person and the experimenter, just had a curiosity about what would happen. Would I turn into a pumpkin, this or that? Would it cause my skin to break out, which is like on one level, like almost terrifying for me. However, I do know that periodically, if I get a blemish, like I had one for a while back, it will heal on its own with nothing. And I'm not using products at all on my face. So I think it's about putting these different things into a context, right? If you're also, when I say beautifying, are you cooking all of the nutrition out of your food? So as someone that loves living foods, and that's not who I am. That's something that I do. So I don't want us to be so divided by different labels, right? Into these different camps. And again, we're ruminating, but that doesn't say anything about your character, what type of person you are based on what you eat. So I'm looking for results. The things I'm looking for that I prioritize are longevity, vitality, mood, and beauty, right? Because health is my #1 beauty product. So when you say cook plant-based foods, that could be anything, because I was at one of my heaviest weights as a vegetarian. And so it took a while of experience and gaining a frame of reference to understand what I was doing to keep causing my skin to break out. And there's certain things that if I do right now will make my skin break out again. So I'm not off the hook even as a living foodist. And I found what I prefer. I prefer whole living foods as a lifestyle. And also I really enjoy it. So again, I got my own little language and lingo over here. I have so many treats that there's no need for me to cheat, right? There's so many things that save me. As someone that was a junk food habit that gains weight very easily, only have a small piece of my thyroid, there are things that sustain me. So most of us are not sustainable, or we jump in and out of things first or quickly, or we jump to different extremes. Some of us may jump into a water fast, and I'm not here to tell grown folks what to do. But I find as someone that was trained in nutritional fasting for from 3 days, 7 days, 14 days, 21, and having dealt with so many clients in the holistic health center that I worked at, I found the majority of the people over the years did not maintain. And there's a reason why. So most people balloon back up, or people get into a binge purge cycle with colonics. So there's something missing. So I'm always fascinated by what is the thing that is missing. So I hope that answers your question. I have many thoughts on cooked plant-based foods, right? And so when you're cooking, are you enjoying your food? Are you eating only for taste? And taste is a part of it. Are you eating, how much are you eating for nutrition, right? And are you aware of your portions? Right? Are you aware when your body has had enough? Right now, if all of you take a look at your body, pinch your waistline, look at, are you sleepy or not? I know it's only in recent years I started to notice that my eyes change. And, as a result of salt, and too much salt, even at good nutritious, the best quality sea salt. Too much salt is too much salt. So many of us don't want to hear those different things, and we can bring our different mindsets and our pacifiers with us and just change the labels, if that makes sense. So I invite you to consider that there are other forms of nourishment other than physical stuff that we're chewing. And when you sit down to eat, you want to enjoy it and be sensory. If the food is so full of seasonings and we're so stressed out and we're not present, quite often we're not even conscious of the physical cues of satiation. I find that I do eat more cooked foods. And then most of your body is what? Water. So definitely it can be observed that you leach a lot of the water. And I'm very big on living water. Somebody asked me, I can't think of which subscriber it is, that asked me about what living water is. So you're welcome. So living water, what I mean by living water, right now you're not a cadaver, you're not a corpse, you're not a rotting piece of flesh, although parts of us might be rotting, stuff might be rotting in our stomach or fermenting. You're a living being. Right? When something is rotten, it has a certain kind of smell to it, even if you go near a stagnant pond or a stagnant body of water, right? So living water, you can recognize living water, right? Right now, if I go grab some of the cucumbers, right, and I can look at it, it's nice and shiny, the skin naturally, even if they're not waxed. It has very shiny skin. And if I look at the oranges and the peaches and the mamey or the fruits I was eating the other day, it's living water. It's going to go rotten if it sits for a long period of time. It has enzymes. It has life force and activity. It's not stagnant. It's not a stagnant body of water. And it has enzymes. It has life force in it. And also living waters will have a certain effect on your body. So when I say living water, if I right now were to fire up some spinach right now, I would cook a lot of those that juiciness, that life force energy out of the food by adding heat. And we also know that heat denatures proteins, right? You're changing the chemical structure of the food. You're extracting the life force of the food. If we would have put right now a plant into the fire and burn it to a crisp and to char it, it would no longer be the spinach, right? So most of us are overcooking the foods. And there's so many different schools of thoughts, even in terms of raw or living foods, in terms of what temperature to dry foods out or dehydrate them in order to preserve the enzymes, right? The enzymatic, these life processes that happen inside the body happen at an enzymatic level. So those enzymes are destroyed in the presence of heat, in particular heat to a certain temperature. Now, I am an avid experimenter, and I even built a whole solar contraption outside because it can get really extremely hot. As a matter of fact, in the coming week, it's going to go up to 107 degrees, and it's already another kind of heat. So this would be the time to put things in my solar dryer, and I am all for solar energy. But I know right now, if even as much as I have melanin and I'm all cocoa buttered and shea buttered up, I could really make myself look like a raisin. I can't burn myself. I've gotten skin burned very badly. Actually, my first skin burn that taught me a lesson was in Greece, where coming from a cold environment, the heat felt so wonderful. I was just drinking up the sun. And then one of my Italian colleagues was just slapping some baby oil on and just roasting. I was like, if she could do it, I can do it. Honey, I was peeling like an onion. So that taught me a lesson. It doesn't. Okay. Oh, thank you so much. I still haven't figured out all the features of this. I haven't figured out all the features. You know, sometimes I'm just moving in the spirit. And so, you know, I got to think more. I got so much stuff on my table and I'm trying to pop in and just share some love. So I don't get distracted. I got so much stuff I'm trying to express. My brain sometimes is popping, like exploding with things that I would love to share. So these are some things, some examples of some of the things that we're going over in the Kacoon. And these are also some of the things I was thinking of in the quiet. I know I'm early bird over here. So if you want to catch me, it's usually between 4 and 4:30 at the latest, around 6:30. And hold on one second. I'm going to get a cord to plug this in. See, I'm already talking on here too long. So I'm going to get the cord up, plug the thing in. But the thing is shut off on me. I'm going to plug my computer door. I'm going to plug it in. You're going to see my homegrown design, one of my designs of one of my dresses. I love dresses. I love sport, but I also love dresses. So what was I saying? Okay, I got so much stuff busting on my brain. Let me focus. So these are some things like in the early morning that I was thinking of, right? So I'm fascinated by what drives human behavior, what motivates us to get into action, and then also self-sabotage. So here were some of the things. The list is quite a list. If it doesn't apply, oh my gosh, Miriam, you started a garden. Yay! Ooh, 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 ooh. So I'm really excited. There's some folks here that are visiting. There's been several folks back to back that have been visiting and have been picking from the garden. And then we made food in the garden. And then we went to the Mayan ruins and had our food, our living foods at the top of the Mayan ruins. So at Ashwantunich. So that was so lovely. So shout out to you. That is fantastic. See, I'm so excited. See, I got a vision. I've had a vision for, let me tell you this little vision, but come close. I have a vision of 1 million+ Afro flowers. Other flowers can join, rest of the flowers can join. If you bring a positive vibration, you're welcome. I have a vision. I've had this vision for a while, and it's spearheaded, in terms of exercising together, sweating, exercising together, starting gardens together, and preparing food together, along with some double dutch and some roller skating. That is my vision, and the vision has expanded to something that I've been talking about a while, and I'm formulating. It's actually really cooking up. I can't even believe it. It started off as Afronomics / Afroflowernomics, because I feel very passionately that though this is a beauty mark, everybody got their little beauty marks. This is a beauty mark, and the folks that have this particular beauty mark should be thriving and flourishing from it. So as I've traveled to quite a few countries, and as my godparents taught me, I'm always looking to see how are we doing out in the world? How are Afro women, how are flowers, how are we doing, how are we faring out in the world? And so when I see many women and young girls like struggling financially in the States as well as overseas, there's a saying, we always going to get our hair done, right? And so you see us still going over to these different shops for hair. A lot of times the products contribute to fibroids. You know, it's somewhat connected to our esteem. So I'm like, our insecurities and this beauty mark and covering it up is a whole industry. It's a whole set of economics based off of this, and we're the only people that have it. So I got some stuff that's cooking up because it's one of my visions. And a vision's like Stevie Wonder. So anyway, let me share some of this list, right? If it doesn't apply, feel free to leave it right here, right here. So these are some things to contemplate in terms of self-sabotage. Why your prayers ain't working or may not be working. I don't know if it don't apply. Leave it right here. Why we're sabotaging ourselves. So in the quiet moments, perhaps look at one of the relaxation videos on this channel or something else that you use for relaxation. On the quiet, perhaps you've got a nice little moving fountain or something, some wind chime, something in your house that relates to nature, the wind or something, when it's really, really quiet, when you're decluttering, when you're doing your movement practice that you can listen to help you get grounded. But these are some things you maybe can pick one or several of these, maybe one at a time, to consider. Consider self-sabotage without demonizing yourself, to get to the root of like, healthy dose of curiosity. Where is that coming from? So here's the list. Here we go. 1, the divine, the source that you claim to be praying to for assistance cannot help you because 1, you're clinging to narcissistic relationships, mesmerized by the narcissist, their confidence, their costume, and their soothing rhetoric, right? And narcissistic relationships can be with a country or an individual, right? Or a group of individuals. Well, usually it's an individual. Number 2, you're scared to experience withdrawal and prefer the opiate of distraction. Number 3, you cling blindly to outdated obligation, to beliefs and behaviors that have been demonstrated they don't work. And that's based on consistent, undesirable results. Yet they are familiar and everybody's doing it. Number 4, you trust middlemen and middlewomen claiming to be, quote unquote, God's representatives, or with many letters attached to their names in a suit or costume, rather than getting quiet and relying on common sense. Again, if none of these apply to you, just leave them right here. Number 5, your nerves, vitality, clarity, focus, and creativity have been depleted chasing tail or retail. These are just thoughts that come through my mind. It's pretty good. If this don't apply to you, maybe I'm just talking to myself. So, chasing tail and retail. I just came so clearly. Number 6, you may falsely assume that taking 1,000% accountability for your life and role, in your own role, yours, my role, and allowing or participating in self-sabotaging behaviors is less juicy and less rewarding to the ego than blame and victimhood, right? So it's not so juicy. If you take 1,000% accountability, that's boring. The ego don't want that, right? It's better like this person did this, and they might have really done somebody might have really done some stuff to you, right? But if you take 1,000% accountability for your role in allowing it, even if you're in ignorance, right? And allowing it, that's not so juicy, right? So let's see, where are we at? Let's say that was number 6. Number 7, gluttony has become an ingrained habit. Oof. Number 8, you underestimate the impact of withholding your attention and resources in response, right, to demonstrations of disrespect. Now, you might have to play this back later. I want to get through the list. Number 9, you do not have a vetting process in place for who or what you allow into your psyche, your underwear, and your purse, your pocketbook, your wallet. Number 10, you waste precious time arguing with fools, strangers, internet ghosts, and keyboard warriors, and teenagers. That could be like physically they're teenagers, right? But also emotional teenagers, mental teenagers. Oof. You might be just arguing with teenagers. Online and in real life, you're arguing with these people. right? Waste of energy. Number 11, you don't analyze the business model or models or follow the money trails, right, to the source, right? Think about these things. So you're busy putting out a lot of money, or let's say, for example, good example would be social media. Using social media like Facebook is a great example, right? You're not observing the money trail, right? You may not understand how Facebook is monetized. So if you don't understand how something is monetized, you may not be understanding how much you're giving away the currency of your attention and your time, right? If this don't make sense, leave it right here. So, number 12, you're unwilling to invest, right, consistently in personal development and effective communication skills, right? Somehow this one I figured out, right? Investing in, there's certain types of dysfunction that I could recognize that maybe family members that are making bad people weren't exposed to, right? We pray over everything when sometimes we just need some life skills, right? Some other ways to manage our finances or manage stress, etc. Number 13, your circle of influence is full of enablers where you don't hold each other accountable to growth. 14, you don't challenge the choices or narratives that are chosen, created, and handed to you. Number 15, I'm going to get through this list. You are unwilling to swap identified time wasters to get sufficient sleep. Number 16, your valid excuses make you feel brave and justified in remaining at the same level in love, finances, and health. Yeah, you might have to replay this if this don't make sense here. Number 17, you have no plan nor a commitment to a plan of actions, right, to change your situation. Number 18, you consume substances. Oh, this is one of my favorite ones that I notice as a pattern. This could be really helpful. Ooh. You consume substances that masquerade as food and falsely expect high-level brain functioning. You might be eating crap. You can recognize if you slow down that they're not food. So why you expect sharp critical thinking when you're consuming stuff that's not food and not even appropriate for your brain? 19, you overuse, overexpose, and deplete your reproductive organs and disregard their direct connection to vitality and creativity. This is many of us, you know, in your quiet moments. 20, you're unwilling to release your crutches. Anything that you've been using as a crutch, maybe unwilling to release the crutch, although the time has passed for you to release that crutch. 21, and I don't make myself exempt either. I don't take nothing for granted. 21, you do not apply corrective actions and clean up errors, especially as it pertains to character. 22, you don't honor, revere, and show actions of respect and protection for children or the earth. 23, you don't effectively measure progress and rather go solely on subjective emotions. 24, you're wasting time waiting on an apology. Ooh, these are a lot of time wasters here. 25, you're waiting for acknowledgement outside of yourself. 26, you're recycling regrets while getting high. That's what I actually mean, getting high or being high, rather than going for a run or getting physically active. 27, you're proud to be a martyr. You may wear being a mule on your sleeve. I'm Superwoman. You're so proud you're Superwoman. Meanwhile, Superwoman, her weight out of whack, skin out of whack, nerves are on edge, but you're still wearing the badge of I got it, and not realize you ain't got it. And you're still operating, but you're operating at a loss of energy to yourself. Let's see. 28, you value what you imagine to be the afterlife more than this one. Now, I'm not meaning to trigger anyone in your religious beliefs. Just one woman's observation. But that's a doohickey. Because if you so much valuing the afterlife, but you're not valuing this one, I invite you to have a healthy sense of curiosity. But does that really make sense? So you're going to totally disrespect the life that you have? Let's say, this one is a big one. I've had this discussion with my mother. for the longest time, and people in my family. So you mean to tell me you're going to totally disrespect the body temple and the organs that you got, and you expect the Most High, the Creator, whatever you call it, to give you a fresh, brand new body when you haven't been a good steward of this one? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Maybe it's just me. That doesn't make one iota of sense. 29, you make no time for play or dance. 30, you assume that you cannot have a good time unless you are drunk or high. 31, you take someone not choosing you personally and as something negative. And 32, you do not enact physical, legal, and financial consequences appropriately. So, these are some of the things that I find. I could have kept going because I started out with just a couple, and that list just kept expanding and expanding. So this is why, as I share this one woman's perspective, we all, you can have coaches, you can have guides, but even myself as a trainer all these years, I am under no illusions that I'm healing somebody's body. This is just my perspective. Your body is a self-healing mechanism, just like there are parts of your womb, parts of your body that are self-cleansing, right? Your body knows how to poop and let go of old waste. So I can be a catalyst, but you have to do the work. I have to do the work for myself. I can't go to all my family members and make a glass of fresh juice and have them drink it. And even if I could, I would deplete myself. So I really have to do my own work. But I'm always fascinated in my quiet moments by why are we sabotaging ourselves? So you can tune into your own divine, onboard, innate intelligence. And if you think about it like that, you might be like, oh my gosh, what the heck does that look like? Because we have been so conditioned to look to everyone outside of ourselves. We're looking to all of these professionals. Can't you be the professional for yourself in terms of there's a spirit that lives within? We call it spirit. There's an intelligence that all of us were born with, and we don't trust it. If you get quiet, it's going to guide you to what to eat, what to not eat. It's a lot of confusion between the programs that are also communicating with the brain, right? As well as your own onboard guidance system. So we don't trust it. And even when it's telling you what to do, just like whatever your God, Most High, your intelligence, you're connected to, it told you what to do years ago. But we're not trusting it. We're disregarding it and disrespecting it, and then going to pay other professionals to give us advice. Does that make any sense? What does that look like? Janita, what do you mean? What does that look like? Which one? I don't know which one it is. But anyway, contemplate this. You're invited to, because I don't tell grown folks what to do, right? But you can maybe pick maybe one of these at a time and contemplate it. The whole purpose of the exercise, right, and what we do in some of the early morning sessions, right, what we do in the Kacoon and some of the relaxation sessions that are on this channel. Relaxing, getting quiet, you will likely start to notice on the screen of your mind, you may notice it's never ending, the thoughts. And so your eyes are going along with the stream of your mind. And you're acting out all of these thoughts and emotions, almost in third person. And not really present to the past isn't happening anymore. Even if some horrific stuff happened to you, we may still be affected, but it's not happening anymore. And we can make other choices to reframe our narrative and to understand what other people did to us has nothing to do with us, whether it's our parents or a criminal, it has nothing to do with us. Folks trying to inflict their power over you or to usurp your power or to violate you has more to do with them. Now, we receive the effects of it, but it has nothing to do with us, whether that was a parent or old lover or boyfriend, and we're still recycling it, and it holds us in a prison to the point we can't get present. And sometimes we're munching on chips while we're watching the screen in our mind, and we're not present. And different results are in the present. It means you have to do something. Right? So marketers, folks understand very much how our psyche works. I dare say more than we do. We haven't been encouraged to. It can be embarrassing. I know, shocking how much we're not understanding our own psyche, but we can repeat off, memorize verses from various different scriptures. And we demonstrate a lack of comprehension. Why do I say this? Because it shows up. It shows very clearly in our self-sabotaging behaviors, the way we are literally offing ourselves, taking in toxic substances, right? While we're watching and looping trauma in the story in our mind and the pictures in our mind, right? Does this make sense? So I'm a very practical person, not a mukajuk person, and I have found quote unquote spirituality. I mean, really, who has the market on spirituality? I mean, think about it. This is so practical. This is so practical, it's shocking. There's nobody that has carte blanche on what spirituality is. It's who you are, right? You can't try to be something. Either you're in alignment or you're not in alignment. Either you're fully self-expressed and living a life the way you want to express it. And if you're not, I invite you to investigate why. Because usually we're following the screen of our mind. Trauma or not having confidence because of different experiences that have happened to us that are past. They're not even happening anymore. However, if we take the time to understand our psyche, right, just at a basic level, it's humbling, like, wow, how much we are affected by programming. How much our emotions can be manipulated. How much we are functioning off of the 6 basic fears. Look it up, because I always miss one. Fear of poverty, fear of death, fear of old age, fear of loss of love, fear of, oh my gosh, I always get them mixed up, but there are 6 basic fears. Look them up. And it's humbling when you realize not only are we manipulated by fear, we're in a holding pattern, you can actually inflict fear on people or trauma, and you can use it to literally control people. It's so simple and brilliant. It's actually the practice of animal husbandry, which was mimicked in the process of slave breaking, right? And that it's been concentrated definitely in the Afro experience in the Americas, but not limited to one group of people, right? So all is to say, things may have happened to you. You still may be experiencing some things, but what we are responsible for, we are 1,000% responsible for our lives, not what's happening to us. We do have the ability in some degree to remove ourselves from harm's way, right? To restrict our dollars, to remove our attention. Many of us do have the ability to remove ourselves. And then even if you look, let's see, what was this one book years ago from, I think it was a Caucasian Jewish gentleman that wrote, I think it's the book, I don't know if it was Man's Search for Meaning. Some of you might know. It was a book about a man that wrote about his experience in a concentration camp. And basically, they just totally like broke this man down. But he made an internal decision that his mind would not be affected. And that's what helped him to survive. I'm sure there's many of our ancestors that chose not to walk over the side of the ships and drown themselves, right? And I'm not going to make anybody wrong, because who knows what you would do put in certain situations. And that's something, another area for us to grow into, not being as, and it's something we grow into. If we can forgive ourselves for being human, right? For being so judgmental of somebody because they eat differently. They may eat flesh. I used to eat it, or junk food. They may consume alcohol. They may consume weed. They may have power. I mean, are these really the reason that we're judging people? These are like projections quite often, and reflections of how we're feeling about ourselves, or how we're judging ourselves, we're judging other people. And it can also show some of our fears can show up, right? Let's say, for example, somebody may choose to express themselves sexually different than you. Sometimes we can get so fixated. You know, this is where if you really take the time, there's a lot of fear. Are they coming to get me? You know, are they trying to erase me off the planet? You know, in your own quiet moments by yourself, you can take the time to write down or journal or unpack your fears. And sometimes you could potentially be missing out on some wonderful human beings, or be less compassionate for human beings that have been exposed to so much trauma out of fear. So fear is no joke. Fear is no joke. So perhaps what's the best that we can do, right? Because I'm about the results, is to get in action around the things that you say you value. If you value health, you're not getting into action. You know, I'm not judging nobody. Ain't none of my business. Ain't none of my BI bubble eye business. But when you're by yourself, you know, ask yourself in your quiet moments, why am I not getting into action? And see how quickly What happens if you just get on the floor and do a couple of stretches? Things like that can shift you out of stinking thinking, right? You might need to put on some incense and put on some music and start dancing and start stretching. And make it short, 5 minutes. And just start to notice how you can shift your paradigm, how you can shift the loop that you're on in your thinking, right? And that can perhaps be a much better use of our time than worrying about what's going on in somebody else's bedroom or in somebody else's family, what's going on with so-called celebrities. This is an age of hyper distraction. Hyper distraction to soothe your fears is extremely profitable. It's extremely profitable. You can sell 1 million products to somebody. I can sell you some old stinky cologne. If I can get you to feel you're going to be chosen if you put this particular scent on. Some people call it to listening to your first mind. All right. And we can get so attached to if we call it mind, if we call God. Who cares about the labels? What happens? See, I got this practice. I practice sometimes, people watching. If you turn down the volume, experiment on all the language. Turn down the volume. Turn down the volume and watch behavior. And I guarantee you will find that many of the behaviors are the same between folks. They maybe eat a little different, but a lot of the projections of fear, which are internalized or projected out onto other people, that can show itself as hate, which is really just fear, right? You can see that a lot of the behaviors across the board, they're the same. They're very, very similar, the human condition. And we allow ourselves to be manipulated quite often in ignorance. So self-care can go way beyond looking good and smelling good, of which I like. But getting to the root of our self-sabotaging behaviors. Don't you have a curiosity? I'm so curious. It's like, why would somebody put that in their mouth if it's going to jack up your skin? I had jacked up skin. Go look in the community section. My skin was looking like the sidewalk. And I was doubly pissed because, as my little son would say, Mommy, you're so healthy. Why your skin look like that? You shouldn't be eating it. That didn't make me feel too good. But if you get quiet, you can know exactly why you have the results that you have. And you can uncover and unpack it and get into act. There's nothing like getting into immediate action, even if you think it's teeny tiny, towards a goal, because it could shift your paradigm. And I have found that it's very efficient to have a paradigm shift to catapult you out of stinking thinking or unproductive thinking, or thinking that when you're paralyzed by all the thoughts and by the regrets, and get into action around what you say, not what I say, around what you say is important. So I just wanted to come on, share that list. You're welcome if you like to replay it and see. Maybe pick one of these things as a contemplation, right? Because there's, sometimes I don't even like to call it meditation, right? I'll just call it relaxation, right? So because there's all these programs and this resistance that could come up when we say meditation. We think it has to be something very formal. You need a guru. And I've been to ashrams and all that stuff. And actually, some of those experiences are really great. But breaking things down to the simplest common denominator, I have found to be very, very helpful, so that the mind is not so resistant. Who doesn't want to relax? Like, who doesn't have a sweet tooth, right? To find a point of entry, right? At a basic level, understanding your own psyche. Because right now, the marketers and people trying to sell us trash and stuff we don't need are understanding our psyche a lot more than we do. And they spend trillions of dollars on it, right? I'm mom, and folks got $1 trillion budget. I'm one woman, and folks have $1 trillion budget. And it actually works. They run all kinds of test studies and stuff. The formulas work. So as long as we're programmable and this brain is highly malleable, you might as well decide to program yourself towards the results that you want, and see what works and identify what has worked and what has not worked based on measurable results. So that being said, I hope this video is helpful. I thought those were saying some things. I think even my son be like, oh, it's too much. My brain is constantly exploding with ideas and things. And I think some of it is from quiet time spent in the garden and spending quiet quality time with myself. It activates, I don't know, another kind of thinking. So y'all, shout out to Love One Way and Janita. Oh, so what does it look like listening to your inner guide? So, okay, Janita, so what that looks like, right? Because your inner guide is not, it's not something solid. It's not something tangible, right? Kind of maybe perhaps if you think of like this, you have a, look, I got a skull here and there's an organ, a physical organ in it is the brain, right? So we can distinguish between the brain and a function of the brain. Part of what the brain does, right, is thinking, right? Mental processing. So most of us, just like us, most of us don't know what death is, right? And we have many theories and there are many studies on how the brain works. Some of this we do know, right? It has different functioning capacity. So a lot of the scientists and philosophers and spiritual people have different, in some ways they intersect, but everybody has their theories on what animates this physical, this vehicle, right? And how it operates and the essence that animates it and the different things that we call it and our connection to it. So I'm a very practical person, right? We can go to all the philosophy. I like that too, but I love to bring things down to the simplest common denominator. So I'm a mom. I don't know. Shout out to any of you that are mothers. And if there's anyone out there, if any of you have ever attended someone else's birth, I remember just the process of being pregnant and that life growing within my stomach and then feeling it move, flutter in my stomach like butterflies for the first time. And then I remember the first time I saw it moving around my stomach like this, I was like, wow, this is friggin' amazing. Sometimes I tell my son, Dad, oh my gosh, like, look, it's moving, and I'm not doing it. To the time my son came out, like, wow, that was friggin' actually amazing. He was born at home. And then to be at someone else's birth. And I was so curious. I wanted to be on the other side to see, like, I want to see what's happening here because this is actually amazing. So I remember when I watched my god sister when her daughter came out, you know, it was like watching a little alien come out. I'm like, wow. So I'm like, where actually was this person that we're calling a person, this physical being? Where were they before they grew and inhabited, you know, a physical form and grew and then came out on this side? So I even used to talk to my son when he was first born. Like I used to look into his eyes, like, where were you before you were here? So we know our essence inhabited something else that we can't even put into words before it landed on this side. And everybody on this live is going to quote unquote expire. That's a physics. That's a fact. Everybody is going to expire as we know it. So that being said, this physical being in the brain, it has breath, it's spiritu or breath, or what we call spirit and animation. It's animated, right? And we know what it looks like. We have an idea when it's not animated anymore. So there's an intelligence, right, that's making the heart beat. We have the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic nervous system. If I poke myself in the eye, it's going to blink, right? There's an automatic part that's automatic with the heartbeat and the pulse. And there's a part that's conscious, me talking to you now, making decisions, right? So part of the communication system is like a knowing, like a consciousness. There's something, there's an awareness. There's something of a mental processing, decision-making processing. There's an intelligence that's going on all the time. It's like the earth is spinning. We are a part of it. And there's also there's a macrocosm, we're a part of it, a little piece of it. And we're processing and making decisions, all that stuff. There's an intelligence that's communicating with us to tell us consciously, do this, don't do that. And as a part of it, we can check in and ask questions. So in the very practical sense, right, what we do in relaxation first, tuning into the breath, and then in contemplation, you can ask a question, and what that would look like, right, is you would just listen and just start to become aware of what you would do, right? A lot of it is automatic at this point, you know, like when it's time to eliminate and go to the bathroom, but also tuning into that guidance system when it comes to, let's say, for example, are you eating the right foods, right? Are you eating too much food? Are you eating too little food, right? There's an intelligence. There's a part of a communication system that we're born with. There's an intelligence, common sense, and it's also actually very intuitive. So a part of the way that you can exercise and start to become more aware of that is to literally ask questions. And then you may even start to notice how much we're on automatic pilot. It's just like not questioning people because they seem like the authority. A lot of times we're not questioning even where our thoughts are coming from. So it's not for you to go in too much of a rabbit hole, but in a very practical sense, if you ask questions, and I have found an ideal time for me to hear that part of, or to be able to tune in and listen to that part of the awareness is when it's really, really quiet, which is why I'm a lover of the early part of the day. So for me, 4 o'clock, between 4 o'clock and 6 o'clock in the morning are power hours. You know, I find myself, if you just listen and observe your patterns of when you're motivated, when you're dejected, you can start to tune into a knowing or an intelligence. Does that make sense, Janita? I don't know if you're still in here, but hopefully that makes sense. That's my breakdown. That's my breakdown. And I think all of us we have an intelligence. And we're not having these conversations. We leave everything to the guru. Again, I've gone to ashrams. I have been an avid reader of self-help. Again, because I have always been fascinated by what drives us to do things that are very harmful to ourselves, to be very negligent of children, to disrespect our bodies and other people's bodies. I'm fascinated. I was like, this don't make no sense. It's like, why would somebody poo-poo in the hallway or throw litter on the ground? I'm like, it doesn't make sense. But I do know children have taught me no one does something without a reason. So I'm always curious about the reason. And there are different parts of our psyche that are communicating. One part of it, the ego and the subconscious, is primal, and it's not processing the same as the conscious mind, right? So let's say you're very logical, you know, not to spend more than you earn, right? But sometimes if you have if you ever had to drive, you know, any of you saints out there, to have unprotected relatings, to eat some food that would jack up your teeth or jack up your organs, to drink something toxic, to do something that literally can cause harm. Where does that come from? Where's the rationalization? Usually demonizing, but how are there certain parts of us that are primal, that don't want to feel, or that feel insecure, or that are in a kind of backwards way trying to protect us, but actually is so illogical, right? This primal part of our brain is not logical and it's on automatic pilot. If not, we would probably hurt ourselves and place ourselves even more in harm's way. So there's a part of our nervous system that's like that fight or flight. That's that primal part of our processing, right? And it has us, it's very affected by trauma that occurs as very small infants and as children. And so once it gets trained a certain kind of way, you don't access it logically. It takes a lot to understand it. So we graduate school without really understanding how to operate a business, right? We graduate school quite often without really fully understanding how our reproductive organs work. And we graduate school without really understanding our psyche, if this makes sense. Yeah, and self-love, we have a lot of memes and things, but if it were that easy, then most likely we would see a lot of these behaviors exhibited. We don't see a lot of, we say self-love, we don't see self-care. We see people, we see people around us abusing themselves and abusing each other. So if we're so logical and we're so smart and so educated, then don't you have a curiosity as to why? So for me, I've always had a fascination. At the same time, I'm very humbled. I've shared that I've often for many years watched documentaries of junkies, right? Because I wanted to understand how people in my community, people that I care about, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. So this has been an inquiry in a path of many decades. And so there's certain conclusions I've come to that have actually helped me in not being so judgmental of people, because I'd rather understand. Now, let me make a distinction. There's a difference between judgment, common sense, and judgment in terms of condemning people. So I don't really need to condemn people because people condemn their own selves, which is worse, right? And I will enact healthy boundaries. That is smart, right? So now we see today people are so socially, what's that term? It's a term, socially correct, politically correct. I think the term is politically correct. That we don't take a stand for healthy boundaries or protect values at the same time being respectful, of others. So all is to say, you have an intelligence that can guide you, and not so much in right and wrong, but what's appropriate for you. Things you would like to explore artistically in terms of expression. Things that you may not be doing, that you may be doing things that are unhelpful. And in the back of your mind, nothing gets past the subconscious mind. So if you're not in action around things that you say you value, that will likely cause depression. And if we're not in action around things that we want to experience artistically or however, if you're not in action, there's usually a reason why. It could be like you maybe have a fear of something, or you may have a fear of judgment or some kind of trauma there. And you may not ever totally know what it is, but you can know enough to unpack, to unpack where you are blocked from getting into action. And you don't have to wait until you know all of those answers. I can tell you there is one particular shortcut, which is getting into action, and physical movement is one of them. It's one of your greatest tools, right? Preparing yourself beautiful, life-giving food, one of your greatest tools. Beautifying your space, cleaning your space, and I don't mean cluttering it up, can be one of your biggest tools. Quiet, one of your biggest tools. Relaxation, one of your biggest tools that is accessible to you, that you have consistent access to, you that is you have access to, and it's free. It's free. These are things that you can do, that you have access to. So hopefully this is helpful. I invite you to create a positive circle, some kind of support for you. Support works. I don't play when it comes to support. I keep support around me all the time, and I usually have 1 or 2 coaches in my back pocket, because those are things that work. Certain things work. Not because I may not have a level of accomplishment, but if I'm looking to get to another level of accomplishment and even excellence, then I'm not looking to keep recycling what I know. I want access to what is the blind spot that I don't know. Any professional athlete, they always have coaches, and they seek new coaches and different types of coaches and more information, not because they're not already doing excellent, but they want another level of excellence and another level of breakthrough. I think that's definitely an area for us to understand, and that is not necessarily. It could be for some people, you know. Some people might have religion in a narrative that works for them and helps them to yield a certain result. So if it's working for you, work it. However, I'm not talking about spiritual bypassing. But again, if religion is a tool for you that you can use to access this, fine. But I'm actually not talking about religion. I was raised very religious. So I'm really speaking about being results oriented. And do understand this is a journey that likely we'll be on for the rest of our lives on this side of the dirt. So I will connect with y'all soon. Enjoy the rest of your day. Please play this while you're decluttering or cleaning, or perhaps maybe the last 2 hours before you go to bed. So we're striving to get more quality sleep, ideally by 10 if you can. We perhaps play this when I say a support or a circle of influence. So you know that could be your cue to, it's time to wind down the conversations that you have or what you're listening to rest. Because again, there's stuff being packed down into our subconscious all the time, and we're having responses to it. We are actually reacting to what's being dumped into our subconscious. So it's a lot to unpack and put into perspective, and even to release. All right. See y'all soon.